How did Einstein view himself historically? We had interviewed Professor Iliffe, who runs the Newton project at Oxford, and he told us that Newton saw history as Adam, Noah, Moses, Jesus, and Newton. That's how Newton viewed world history. Did Einstein have this? Because you portray really Einstein in the book as really a man of the people. He had no problem going into African American neighborhoods, walking through them, and speaking to people. He it seems like he, as opposed to authority, he liked the common man. How did he view himself historically, if he did at all?
Well, it's interesting, and the answer is uncomfortably. So he was, always surrounded by paparazzi everywhere he went, and he found it peculiar, which is why one of the things that endears him to us is this sense of humor and this sense of irreverence. And part of that was he saw the sort of attention he was getting as peculiar. One of the people who became a close friend of his when he lived in Los Angeles was Charlie Chaplin. And when Chaplin's film Modern Times debuted, he took Einstein to the premiere. And they get out of the limousine and they are surrounded by hundreds of people and flashbulbs going off. And he turns to Chaplin and says, "What does all this mean?" And Chaplin looks at him and says, "Absolutely nothing." And so there is this sense that, he sees himself as having a platform. He knows he's famous and he uses it for political ends, right? When he's doing work for peace and justice causes in the United States, for example, in order during the war for anyone to come into the country, they had to have letters vouching for them. And he joked to a friend once that he was running a one-man immigration service because he would write letters vouching for anyone who came to him. And so he knew he was famous and he knew he could use the fame. But at the same time, and he had strong convictions for which he argues. But when offered the presidency of Israel, he panics and says, "I'm not a politician. I'm not the person for this." He sort of preempts it before it's offered to him. He says, "No, don't offer this. I'm not a politician." So there is it's hard to use Einstein and humility in the same sentence, but there was a sense that, he had ideas and he would engage in the discourse, but he didn't see himself as a leader in a policy sense. He was a theoretician. He did theoretical physics. He did theoretical politics. So I don't think he saw himself historically in sort of grand terms. Now, he knew his theory of relativity changed the world. Then along came quantum mechanics, which he had problems with, and he had no problem objecting to this new theory that was changing the world. He didn't have to be on board of the thing that would give him more fame. So Einstein's self-image is peculiar that